out of the studio today and in the kitchen. A lot of people have asked me what my pizza recipe is, so I'm going to share it with everyone now. Something a little different for the channel, but should be fun. Okay, we're going to start with my dough recipe, and we're going to talk about the starter a little bit. But I'll probably do that in maybe a different video, show you how I make the starter dough. The one I've had, that I've been using is a few years old now, so I've had it for a while. And what you do is every time you use it, you add a little flour and water. So I do that weekly, and then yeah, that keeps it alive, and I just keep that in the fridge. So I'll show that to you. And then we'll move on from there. We'll make the dough, and then I'll talk about how I let it rise overnight, and then we'll prep it, and then we'll bake the pizza. This is the starter dough. So I've had this for a few years, and I keep adding to it every week. You know, I use it and then I add to it. So that's really where a lot of the flavor comes from, in the dough. So I can do another video where I show you how to make your own starter dough, like sourdough starter. And depending on how much, I rejuvenate it once a week, so it's not super sour, and I don't use that much, but you can see it's kind of bubbling, and so it's definitely alive. Okay, so there's that. You're gonna need a scale to measure the flour, the weight of the flour. I use grams because that's just what I'm used to. We're gonna use a measuring cup for the water. Also, I use a little dried yeast. Not a lot because we're using the starter, but this just helps get it going. Okay, this is what I use for flour. Now, the important thing with the flour is the amount of protein. So this is 4 grams per quarter cup. So that would be 16 grams per cup. So you don't want to go lower than that. So make sure you look for that depending on the flour you use. And we're going to use white flour, don't use wheat for this. Although I do put a little wheat flour in my starter dough, but that's for another video. For the water, we have 1.5 cups. Let's start with the order of ingredients here. I start with the wet, so I just go by eye with the starter. I'm gonna put in, it's probably like 1/4 cup of that, maybe a little less even. Then we have the water, 1.5 cups of water. Now make sure you use warm water, but not too hot, because you don't want to kill the yeast, so lukewarm. Okay, so test it and make sure it's not too hot. And then I put about 1/2 teaspoon of the dried yeast here, so not too much, but just a little to get it going. And then I mix this on low. Just to incorporate all the ingredients here and to kind of proof the yeast. The next thing we do is we measure out the dry ingredients. I should mention that we have salt as well. So I use kosher salt. So I don't know if you can see the scale, but we're going to use 500 grams of flour. So what I do is I do it in 2 batches of 250. So let's get 250 here. Oh, pretty close. And I'll show you why I do that. So we add that. Mix that for a little bit. Get the flour off the side. Okay, so let that mix. And then we'll do our next batch. So another 250. Okay, I went over that. Okay, so you add that. And then we add the salt. So I did it that way because I didn't want to add the salt right away because it can kill the yeast. So I use like a little under a tablespoon of salt, which seems like a lot. But maybe actually let's use a tablespoon to make it easier. So make sure you use kosher salt though. Otherwise it'd be way too salty. Okay, then you mix that. Now the dough will start to pull away from the sides, and that's how you know it's ready. So watch for that. So you want to mix for a good couple minutes, at least 2 or 3 minutes. So see, now you can see how it's pulling away from the sides. Because you're developing the gluten, so you want it to start to pull away from the sides there. Okay, now we're ready to shape it into a ball. So let's get this off the dough hook here. Okay, we're gonna shape it into a ball now. I'll put some flour down. Try to get all of it under. So it's really sticky. It's a high ratio of water in this dough, so that's okay. We want that for the air bubbles. And it's a slow rise dough, so it helps. That's a little more H2O. So we're just forming it into, it was already kneaded in the machine, so we don't have to go crazy with kneading here. So we're just basically kind of forming it into a ball. Take our plastic bowl here, put a little oil in it, just a little drop so it doesn't stick to the plastic. And then that's it. And then we're going to put that in the fridge. It's going to rise overnight. We're going to come back tomorrow and we're going to make the pizza. So you need to set aside 2 days for this. Put the lid on it and we put it in the fridge. Okay, so this has been rising overnight in the fridge. See this? It's sort of lacy. How it's sort of lacy there. That's kind of what you want with the slow rise. So anyway, let's form it into a ball. Roll up my sleeve. Okay, so we're just forming it into a ball. At this point. And then we'll just let it relax before we form it into the pizza. So it's going to relax for about an hour, I would say, and then we'll go from there. Here's a pizza stone, and put it on the pretty high up, so on the top rack here. Put the broiler on high because we're gonna get the pizza stone really hot. We're gonna keep it simple here, so we get some mozzarella. And then also some tomato sauce. And basically that's just pureed tomato, nothing special. I didn't cook it or anything, so it's raw. And that's it. The mise en place. Also some dried oregano and some pecorino romano cheese. So get the good stuff. You know, when I'm messing around with this. So I'll just grate that over the pizza. So we'll do the sauce, the dried oregano, pecorino, and the mozzarella. Sorry about the lighting here, but so it's time to stretch it out here. Don't go crazy with it, just kind of stretch it out like this in the frame. Just let it stretch out. You're going to put it on the paddle here. Flour on that so it doesn't stick. Stretch it out a little more. Okay. Make sure it's free like that. Okay, then we put the sauce. Don't use too much. This is actually good. Some oregano. Grate some pecorino on it. Finally, the mozzarella. Actually, and then what I do is I make sure. Virgin olive oil. This is kind of ridiculous, but I use this laser thermometer to measure the temperature of the stone. So it's about 470. So we want to get it to about 500 before we put the pizza in. And so 550. So let's give it a couple more minutes. We're gonna put the pizza in now. So after about 5 minutes, we're gonna turn the pizza around like 180 degrees, and then yeah, and then we'll go from there. So we're gonna wait about 5 minutes, and then we'll do that. It's been about 5 minutes, so we're gonna turn it around here. 180 degrees. It's looking good. Okay, you gotta make sure you check it after a couple minutes because it goes quick. See, it's almost there, another minute or so. I'm gonna actually turn it again. Back is getting. Okay, I think we're good. There's a little char on the top, so let's check it out here. Now at this point I shut off the stove and I let it sit on the stone to make sure that the bottom is good. So I let it sit there for about 5 minutes. So I set the timer. Okay, and that's it. Let's cut into it and show it to you. So you can see what the crust looks like there. It's really airy when you do it with this broil method. Okay,